everybody, how you doing? It's time for another Dan's Monsters Ramble Through Time. So you probably noticed that I have posted some model making images on my Instagram and Patreon. So I thought I'd just go through an article that I wrote about that experience and how I still love making models. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided that I was going to have a free weekend. I didn't have a DIY job to complete or some gardening chore or other boring day-to-day duties that had to be caught up on the weekends generally. So I decided, after looking at the piles of models I still had unmade in my garage, I was going to make one. Now, admittedly, I chose the easiest one in the pile, skill level 1, basically clipped together with no glue. The questioning model was a U-Wing fighter from Rogue One. My brother had bought it a few years back for my son, but he'd had no interest to make it as he was far too busy with the PlayStation. So I took it upon myself to make it. Now, back in my youth, I was a really big model making enthusiast. I think it probably started with my dad, as he was a big military model guy. Now, myself and my brother would always make like model aeroplanes and tanks, little small ones. But our big love was always the movie and TV stuff. We watched the documentaries about how they made it, especially with special effects hero Brian Johnston, who created the Eagle for Space 1999, and then went on to work on Alien and things like that. The Star Trek stuff, Jerry Anderson. We had the Aurora Monster model kits. God knows whatever happened to them. I used to get a magazine called Space Voyager, which was a magazine I collected as it dealt with movies, science fiction, and fact and model kits. And then I also used to get one called Sci-Fi and Fantasy Modeler, which was fantastic. And it had a load of Japanese kits and American model kits that we didn't necessarily get in this country at the time. Of course, when Star Wars came out, the whole new world opened up. I watched all the making of documentaries as it how to film the impossible. In 1985 was the Horizon documentary that showed all the models and tricks for the special effects industry. So it opened up a whole thing about kit bashing and scratch building, and I read all these articles I could find and how I could build my own models out of boxes, bottle caps and other junk I could find. And I love the painting and the over-enthusiastic weathering I did of everything with the dry brushing technique that my dad taught me. We had a local model shop, Harry Welch's, that I would visit with my dad. I think it used to be a sweet shop at one point. It was a real ramshackle shop on the corner. It was stacked floor to ceiling with model kits of all sorts of varieties. And if you were to pull one out, chances are you would end up buried under a pile of these cardboard boxes. Harry or his son were always on hand to help you out if you asked for anything. However, my favourite memories were the trips to Beatty's model shop in Blackpool with my dad every year for my birthday. I would gather my birthday money together, a fistful of pound notes feeling like hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and we would set off to the grimy seaside town to find the shop in the Hounds Hill shopping centre. And I still remember that feeling of utter excitement. The thought of what I'd be able to find. At this point, I was obsessed with the Tamiya military modelling kits. They once produced a catalogue that you could pick up from model shops with the images of these epic dioramas the Tamiya model makers have made. They were amazing. And even looking now, the levels of skill are just outstanding. I'd pick up as many of the 1/32 scale model kits and figures as I could afford, which was quite a bit back then, with my dad always chipping in a bit extra so I could get a touch more. And I'd barrage him with questions about the tanks and the different soldiers and the different guns. And luckily he was a mine of information because he loved all that stuff, and still does. And then with my bag full of plastic, paint, glue and milliput, which my dad introduced me to again, we would finish off our shopping, go and get a massive ice cream that Knickerbocker glory every time, and it almost made me sick. It was great, but as soon as I got home, vomiting or not, I would dive straight in, opening them boxes, planning those dioramas, the paintwork. Great times. I could not wait to get them built, as all I wanted to do was get them painted and weathered up. I was a dry brush king. If I could add rust somewhere, that was an added bonus. Rust, mud, muck, crusty stuff. Everything had to look battered and grungy and as splattered as possible. They leaked oil, they rusted, bits cracking off, layers of paint falling off. And that's probably something that stuck to the work that I continue to make today. And I can honestly say these were the best of times. And I have real fond memories going back still. As the years went by, the prices of models got higher, so I would come away with less. And Beatty's ended up becoming more of a toy shop, and the choice of models dwindled. And I suppose it was a sign that the hobby was reaching the end of its popularity. The company eventually went bust in 2001, and we'd stopped going long before that. I'd grown a bit older and had other interests, so I thought. And the cost just became too much and the choice too little. I still had the models at my mum and dad's in my 20s, and they eventually just threw them in the bin when I moved out. When I let that happen, why? Oh well. However, my love for these model kits never really faded. When I was living in Liverpool, Forbidden Planet opened, and they had a whole new collection of movie-related models and American resin kits by small manufacturers. I would buy some of these, but I just ended up putting them in a cupboard unmade, and I just suppose I lost the confidence and hadn't touched a kit in years. Now, my dad has always stuck with his scale modelling, and he makes amazing large-scale tugboats at the moment, and they won't go amiss in a movie, something like Raise the Titanic. And he orders stuff from all over the world. Again, not as much these days because of the expense. But we even got to travel to Germany a couple of times to visit the Intermodelbau, which is the International Model Festival held at Dortmund FC Stadium in Westfalen, I think that's right. It's a great trip. They have a weird thing over there for scale fairground models and trucks. But it was a bit bemusing, but they had all sorts of other stuff, and the beer was really, really good. However, I think in the recent couple of years, and probably due to lockdown, if I'm honest, I've discovered a load of scale model making YouTube videos that I never really looked for before. My brother pointed me in the direction, and it seemed to set a little bit of a spark. So my favourite two at the moment, I would say, are Dan Does and his brother Bill making stuff. I highly recommend both of them. Really good. And there's another great site for model making, again thanks to my brother, which is HPI Guys Workshop. It's opened up a whole new world for me, and I just love watching these and zoning out, soaking up and looking at what they're doing and how they're making stuff. And so after that, and watching all these things, I decided it was time to crack on, abandon all hope and dive straight in myself. And what a ride it's turning out to be. Gathering junk, sticking my fingers together with super glue, baking soda tricks, makes super glue harden faster, mixing paint, dry brushing, weathering. I've tried making robots, not so much success. I've certainly sculpted some monsters, and I've made a few spaceships out of beer cans and bottle tops. Honestly, it's probably the most fun I've had in ages. I'm even going to attempt to paint miniatures, which I was always terrible at in the past. However, on this model making journey, I've discovered Army Painter's speed paints that are meant to be really good. So I'll let you know how I get on with that one. And also I've taken up a bit more sculpting, which I had done again in the past, a long time ago. I made a Mekon and I made a zombie, among other things. Again, they've all disappeared somewhere. Because I think I remember in the documentaries and in the how they make movie books, they used to have these models and they'd hold them, but of course everything's now done in ZBrush, is it, or digitally illustrated? So I don't know. I don't think they're as good as they used to be. I like those 3D. Other people think 3D models, I suppose, now. But anyway. So though there are plenty of YouTube videos about model making, it's a shame that the hobby is on the decline. I suppose plenty of old sods still like me are having a crack at it, but there's no doubt there's so many other distractions for kids these days. PlayStations, phones, keeps kids entertained, a lot more appealing to the younger ones, I suppose. Younger ones, sound like I'm 500 years old. And obviously games and TV offer hours of entertainment, no chemicals, no drying time, so no waiting, no messy paints and glues, and therefore nothing to clean up. And most of all, you can actually immerse yourself with these games and TV rather than just imagining what they'll do when they're stuck in a pose you've glued them to a base. In terms of gratification, I suppose you just get it much quicker out of games and TV than you do out of model making, which is a shame. And the toy manufacturers as well, they're even better now. So, why would you want to build a model when you can buy the toy that looks just as good as it could do? It's a shame. And I think James May has always talked about this. the guy from Top Gear or whatever it is, and about how it's a shame that kids don't make models anymore. And I do think it is. But my son did recently buy a Japanese model kit, so you never know. I'll let you know how it goes. Anyway, enough of my silly rambling about plastic and crap like that. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't, please tell me. I'll stop doing it. If you do like it, please tell me. I'll keep doing it. Support me on Patreon if you can, or just, you don't have to pay. You can just come and join and be a member. These go up free. There's lots of other stuff up there, and obviously get myself on Patreon. Keep you updated about what's going on. I hope you enjoy the work, and thanks again, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Speak again soon. Goodbye.